Hey, welcome everybody to the Creature Cast. My name is David Petrangelo, and it's been a little while. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. With me this week, this time around, is editor extraordinaire Bobby Pashilios. Bobby, how you doing, buddy?
I got a little bone to pick with you, actually, right off the bat.
Ooh, okay.
And
Let's do this right up front. I'm
gonna go a little bit Larry David on you because it's I've been watching Curb and like you just got me right in the beginning.
You're in the mode.
Yeah, I'm in that mode. You can't say Happy New Year 3 weeks in. I think it's a little bold to do that. So
Yeah.
maybe like well wishes. I don't know. Happy New Year.
Well wishes. What are you, 82 years old? Well wishes.
I don't know. I feel like Happy New Year's. You're kind of just drawing bad luck to yourself at January 21st.
21st, 22nd here. Yeah. No, you know what? I don't necessarily disagree, but I haven't been on an episode since our Game of the Year episode, which was released before the holidays, before Christmas holidays, which means I haven't spoken to anybody out there since then. And I haven't spoken to you other than through texting and stuff since then too. So you know what? I think it's okay, but it does take a little bit of an explanation. Right. So I do understand what you're saying. If it was someone like, let's say we talked every day and we worked together, and all of a sudden today at work, you were like, hey, you know what? I never said Happy New Year. I'd be like, well, you're a little bit late, dude.
Fair enough.
Like, you're late, you know? I think so. I get it. Also, I don't know. Is that a thing in Curb? Because it is in Seinfeld. They specifically have like a whole bit on people saying Happy New Year in, I think they say in February or something. And they're like, that is ridiculous. It's a whole thing. So
I mean,
makes sense.
They're like siblings. So I'm sure it's on one.
Yeah.
If it's on one, it's on the other. So I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna pull a layer on you and just say, yeah, you can't do that.
I get it though. I'm not going to put up a fight. I just thought I would explain myself. That's all.
That's fine. You have your explanation, and I gave you my side. So now,
all good. How's the first couple of weeks of this new year been going? Anyways, man, it's pretty. As far as the gaming scene goes, it's been it's probably busier than I would have expected. At least personally, I don't know.
There's no slow period I feel anymore for any of us. I mean, between previews and like demos and reviews and interviews, like 2025 started out pretty strong. I mean, we've already got like a couple things in the works for the show in the next couple of weeks, and it's just trying to plan that. And you know how it is. It's just it never stops. It's insane. And on top of that, life is going 1,000 miles an hour, and yeah, everything's compounding. So it's like that 2-week break we had was super needed, but I wish I could go back and just live
do it
there.
Again, or I
know. In a time loop for like a month or two.
Get back caught in that time loop. Yeah. I hear you. It's I've been probably less busy as far as keeping up with the Creature Cast and console creatures as you guys have, just because life's been in the way and stuff. But it doesn't mean that even just keeping up with what's going on, talking to you guys, trying to make sure that we're on the show or get the show going and stuff, like it's still just always then. There's always things going on. You know, CES was big. There's more and more gaming stuff at CES in the last couple of years, especially this year, it seems. And like all of that's important. All of that we want to know about, never mind just talk about or write about. Like it's all part of it. And, you know, we're sitting here only a couple days after they announced the Switch 2, or at least officially announced the Switch 2, which is a big thing. So like it like you said, just doesn't let up. And we're not even out of the first month. It's wild. It's good, but it's wild, and life gets in the way outside of all of this stuff too, right? So it's like one thing after another, man.
It's a good thing to have being so busy, but like honestly, sometimes it's just like you need a minute to breathe, and it's like you gotta come up for air. But
yep. To start the year though, Bobby, we got something exciting to talk about. Now, there's been news over the last, I want to say it was even just last week or the week before.
It was like 2 weeks ago,
early January, I think, that they said that Ubisoft announced that they are delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows once again. This is the second, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even the third time that they've pushed it. But within all of that, you got some hands-on with it, quite a bit of time too. You were just saying before we hit record, I was like, wow, that's a long session of play. So let's break it down. You're gonna have people can read a full couple of write-ups that you have on this game and a couple different angles of it at consolecreatures.com. But it's a really good time to sort of talk about the experience with it and everything that's going so far, at least with this game. So I guess I'll kind of just throw the reins to you, and every once in a while I'll ask you 3 questions about it and stuff. But what's the deal? Speaking of Seinfeld, what's the deal with Assassin's Creed Shadows? I did not mean to do that, by the way, until I realized
it's hard not to. It's not hard to. Like, I'm in a Seinfeld mood, so it happens. So it happens. It's part of life.
That's it.
Yeah, the delay was not surprising, but also a little bit surprising. I mean, it seemed like, the move from November to February was like a good idea. And then, obviously last minute they said, well, we need another month. And a lot of people are, you know how it is online. There's a lot of discourse, a lot of trolls, just a lot of a mishmash of bad opinions and
honestly a lot of the bullshit that we had to deal with when they first announced this game sort of reared its head out again a little bit more. Maybe not quite as intensely, but it was still there. It was still there.
Yeah, it's still there. I feel like it's affected it a little bit, which is exactly what I wasn't hoping to happen. But let's start from the top. Like, it's Assassin's Creed Shadows, where we're 5 years since the last major open world RPG game with Valhalla, and so far I really dig it. I mean, just high level thoughts. Like, I feel like it's the right place, right time, right scenario coming together to deliver a game that I feel like hundreds of thousands of these fans of the series have wanted, right? Like, we're finally getting an Assassin's Creed game in Japan. It is what I kind of expected it was going to be, but like, that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's basically Mirage. It's Mirage, it's Valhalla, it's Origin, it's Odyssey. All of the good stuff from those 4 games combined into one. So you get, obviously, that decently sized open world. It's not the full island of Japan. Like, it's not as expansive as, say, something like Greece or I would say England, but it's more akin to, like, I would say, like, Origins, where it's Egypt, but like it's not expansive enough where it just doesn't feel like it's overwhelming.
Yeah, it doesn't feel endless almost in a way, which
that's a good way to
for me. Yeah, which for me personally, in open world games in general, like, I don't know if overwhelming is the word I would say, and I've mentioned it on the show before, but something about open world games in the last couple of years with me, I'm just it just feels like too much. Yeah, and some of the Assassin's Creed games are those games, so they're not the only ones that are guilty of that or reason why I would feel that way. But to me, that already sounds promising. I like that.
Yeah, that was kind of the first thing I looked at when I was previewing. So, full disclosure, Ubisoft invited myself and I know several others that said they were in attendance to a preview event. So we basically got 4 hours to kind of explore the prologues for both characters, a bit of a province, and then free reign in that province. So it gave us a good idea of what to expect, and surprisingly, I overall thoughts, like, I really like it. I feel like this is easily better than Valhalla in what I've played so far. I feel like it could be on par with Origins as being the better of the newer games. Yeah, I mean, do you have any questions from that? Like, do you want to know about the prologue? Like, we do have a video on the channel going live as the embargo's up, but like that'll have like gameplay and all that. So like that covers the prologue, covers the Animus Hub, it covers some of the province, some of the missions that I did. So it does a little bit of everything. It shows you kind of what Assassin's Creed does. But yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, I'll go from there.
The first thing that comes to mind is, like, I didn't play Valhalla because I think I heard it was massive, like I just said, that already turned me off, because that was sort of like the beginning of me going like, I'm not in the mood for that kind of thing. And I just never got to it. And I know that it plays a little bit differently than the ones that I am more familiar with, which
the older games,
I've played most of them, but the one that I've really spent a ton of time with, the most recent one that I've spent the most time with, is Black Flag, which is a while ago now. And I played Origins and I really liked it, but I never got more than like halfway through the story or whatever. But I enjoyed it. Now, you say that it's sort of a mix of a lot of the newer ones and have like the best elements and stuff. Does it feel anything like those more like quote unquote classic or older versions, or is it just like pretty much what the new ones feel like? It's just grabbing those elements and sort of putting them together in a nice sort of more clean package, if that's the right way to say it. I don't even know if that's the right way to distinguish them, as like pre-Black Flag and after Black Flag. It's sort of like how I feel like that's like the line that was split arbitrarily at one point.
So I think the line I think was split right when Unity failed. So Unity was like the game that was like the one to save the series, because it was stale at that point. And then Syndicate came out and it kind of bombed sales wise, but like, it was really good. It is definitely it is the newer games. Like, you're getting the newer games, you're getting the same parkour, but it feels a little bit more refined. Like, there is a parkour up and parkour down button. It seems to take elements of the older games and puts them into this new engine and into this new world, and like, it feels good. But like, there are just a couple of small things I didn't really like, which, you know, it's just small things like Yasuke. Like, Yasuke can obviously like barrel through doors and windows and stuff like that, but it felt clunky. Like, you have to hold down L3 or whatever it is to get through there. But the way I was doing it on my system, like, we were lagging. Maybe I felt like there's some lag, so like, I'd run, but like, he wouldn't run. So like, there's a little differential when he's running. So like, you can kind of see when he's about to break a door down, but it wouldn't connect. So like, he would just run and hit the wall a couple times.
Gotcha.
So,
but that was maybe more your connection than it was like the game itself.
It could be the connection. I don't know what it was, but like, it feels like the mechanic seems kind of half baked still. So like, I feel like maybe it would have been better if they just, you know, kept it to just run into the wall and it does it automatically for you, instead of, you know, having to trigger with a button. But
right.
Overall, like, I feel like it's, like I said, it feels better than Valhalla, because Valhalla was a pretty weak Assassin's Creed game in the sense that there's no verticality. So from the get-go, like, it feels a lot bigger and better. You have to be doing parkour, and more so because you have two characters now. So you have like Yasuke, who is obviously like a tank. He doesn't climb too often. He's a little bit slower than Naoe, but once you get her, she's like the ultimate assassin, where she's so agile. She's so she's liquid. She's so liquid. Like, she can basically maneuver through anything. Like, she can slide, she can flip, she can jump, she can roll, she can do everything. And she's so, like, she's probably my favorite thing to interact with that world, because you get her on the sticks and she's basically able to just like get from one point of the map to the other without having to, you know, to touch the ground or, you know, roll too often. Like, she can get there when she needs to without being seen. And like, that's kind of what these games are, you know, are meant to be, right? You're a stealth assassin. You want to
that's what they're kind of known for, right? Or at least that's what they began as, right? My question with that was sort of like that just popped into my mind is, we'll get to the sort of prologue. I'm interested about sort of the setup and stuff a little bit too. We'll get that in just a sec. But as far as the gameplay goes and stuff, that type of maneuverability or the, you know, the ability to sort of barrel through walls or doors or something like that, as far as you know, is that something that's available from the start, or did you jump ahead a little bit as to when you were able to actually get your hands on playing those moments, whereas those could be abilities that you get later in the game? Do you have any idea about how that was set up, or is it like, no, this is who these characters are and that's how it starts? Or were you like a couple hours later into the game?
Yeah, so the demo, I did both prologues for both characters, which is just it's like a playable introduction. Like, you're walking through, you're talking to people, and then later they quit the demo, and then they restarted a little bit later with, you know, really optimized weapons, like legendary weapons, legendary gear. So I did have access to some skills that are specifically for combat, but like in terms of like navigation, I feel like what I was playing was what you're going to be getting throughout the entire game, because it's not like
Nice.
you're learning skills to like climb a little bit faster, a little anything.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that.
what I
So
was wondering. Yeah, to be more
I
fluid, like you said.
I
Yeah.
don't want to say it's a definitive yes or no, but like from what I saw, what I played, and just going through the menus, what I did was just what these characters can do. Like for
Yeah.
sure, I don't see Yasuke being able to like climb buildings, because like he's like a 6'4" giant, and
Yeah.
he's like 250 pounds of muscle. So I don't see him climbing buildings. But now she you know, she's like this little jackrabbit that can jump over buildings basically. And from what I played, like that's her character. She was raised a shinobi. She's got the skills, and that's what we're doing.
So is that does the prologue sort of set all that stuff up? Like how did the prologue feel? Because that's kind of at least partially
very
the
important
story of, yeah, I was going to say, like, how critical did it feel? Does it feel like a good setup for what was likely or hopefully a pretty epic story? Like how did it sort of feel for both characters?
So I love both prologues. So I don't know if it's like the final prologue, or if they're going to add anything, or if it was just like a trimmed up version of the prologue. But like Yasuke's prologue's pretty cool, because he shows up to Japan with Jesuit priests from Portugal, and these two priests are treat him like trash, and like they're shit talking him. And Nobunaga, who is like, you know, the big iconic samurai, a lot of people know of Nobunaga. He's this, you know, daimyo lord that, you know, conquered most of Japan and whatnot. But he sees Yasuke, and like he takes interest to him from right away, and like he's like, you know, basically the setup is that, you know, these Jesuit priests want free reign of the country, so they want to be able to just go where they need to go and talk to people, and, you know, explore the country, and, you know, put their message out there. But, you know, Nobunaga's like, well, you guys are already doing that, but you're causing trouble. So if you want, the trade-off is you give me Yasuke, or his name's Diogo, which means I think like just driftwood. He's basically garbage to them.
Gotcha.
And they're like, okay, you can have Diogo, and we just want to, you know, we're gonna walk, you know, go talk to the people of Japan. And that's basically the demo. So it basically just, or the demo, the prologue, it sets up his story as being a sword. They call him, I think,
yeah,
they call him, I think that there was like a word for they called him a sword. God, I can't remember. I gotta put up sword bearer.
Oh, okay.
So basically, he's just, you know, he's not a samurai. I mean, there's a lot of hyperbole online about this, but he's just a sword bearer. He's there to be a servant, and, you know,
he's their muscle. Like he's the muscle for the group.
So basically, they exchange him, and basically, Nobunaga was like, you know, I see your potential. I'll show you what your potential can really be. But in the meantime, what you're doing is you're obviously in the Animus, and you're hearing like someone talking to you saying, you know, this is Yasuke's memories, but they're fractured, and something's not right with his memories. So you're getting just a fraction of what's actually happening. So you have to kind of just it kind of just branches off from there. It doesn't explain what's going on, what's about to happen and whatnot. So it just kind of stops there. My second prologue switches to the second memory, which is Naoe's origin in the prologue story. You know, this is where some other voice called she, and she is basically, I guess she's like a voice in the Animus, and she's talking to the player, and she's basically like saying, you know, these memories are too shattered, so you're gonna help me repair them, and we're gonna figure out what's going on with these characters. And it picks up basically as Naoe's village is being invaded by samurai, and surprise, it's Nobunaga and Yasuke's army invading this village for something. And lo and behold, it's a samurai invasion of an assassin village. So what goes wrong? Obviously, there's a hidden, you know, weapon there that something that these samurai want. And, you know, Naoe's tasked with going to find this box that this relic is in, and she's given her first hidden blade, and she has to go to this cave to find this thing, where she's quickly knocked unconscious. and that's where that prologue ends, and that's kind of where my 2 demos started and ended. So
Okay.
the mysteries
That's
from
cool.
there is you're seeing 2 competing characters come together because something is pulling them together that's bigger than them.
Yeah.
And it's pretty strong. I feel like it's a good way to bring these 2 characters together right there, from opposing sides of a war, and clearly their principles are aligned. So this is kind of where that that system is, where you can pick between Yasuke or Naoe, and it's pretty cool. Like, I do like that. Well, Yasuke's invading this village, but he sees something's wrong with it. So I don't know how they join up, because that's, like I said, that's just the prologue of what we saw.
Right.
I'm kind of curious to see where that goes to from there. But that was the prologue. It was about a half hour, an hour of just building up what's going to happen, and it was really cool. Like, it looked stunning. I think it's probably the best looking Assassin's Creed game I've ever seen.
Looks pretty sharp just sitting here.
It looks pretty sharp. Like, it looks realistic. I still feel like Assassin's Creed Unity is probably the benchmark of just how gorgeous these games are. And that game is, at this point, 11 years old. It looks incredible still to this day.
Right.
But Shadows is quickly right behind it. Like, it's probably the best looking game outside of Unity.
Wow.
And yeah, that's kind of where I was left from my preview from that point. And then
from that point,
but yeah, from what what I've seen, I feel like this delay has done a good number on what this game could be, because
nice.
6-7 month delay gives them a lot of room to improve everything that was lacking polish. I feel like the characters, the worlds, the animations, that extra time has been really fruitful for Ubisoft so far.
The world is something too, because we're talking about a game, and like you said, it's an open world, but it doesn't feel overwhelming or quite as massive, at least so far from what you have your hands on. So if the prologue stuff was roughly an hour, then you had at least a couple hours with.
Yeah.
I guess you could kind of do whatever you wanted. How is it getting around? What does Japan feel like? Is it a lot of open space? Is it mostly just in sort of the cities? Is it a mix of both? How does it sort of feel? Kind of getting around as either of them, or just in general, what's the sort of vibe of the whole thing, and how's it come across?
So off the bat, I don't know if I can say it's as good as Ghost of Tsushima's world, because like that was pretty much a good standard of what Japan video games could be. But I do like what Ubisoft has done so far. I mean, it's still, like, you can't go wrong. This is a really stunning world. It's Japan. Like, there's color, there's nature, there's technology, there are cities to explore. I spent about 3 hours or so with the open world, but it's a lot better than their previous games, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic on that sense. It's pared back, it's dialed back in a good way. So you don't have a lot of icons on the map. There's not 1,000 things begging for your attention. It's just, here you are. Explore the world naturally. So like, you obviously have like your main missions, and there's side missions and all that stuff, but it's not thrown in your face. So like, for example, like, you're exploring Kyoto. It's modern day Kyoto, but it's the Iga province, and you're just doing things like, you're coming across like a group of Ronin, and like they're guarding like a gambling den, and if you go down the gambling den, you fight them, you get some new armor, you walk back out, and then you're like, well, this is somewhere you're gonna have to come back to later because it's part of a mission, but because you already cleared it, like, they're gone. And it kind of like, the world just feels a lot more natural in that sense. So like, you might be able to clear something and come back, and it's cleared for you already because you were there. And it's just surprising how natural it feels compared to older games. Like, Dave, I don't know if you remember playing Unity, but like, or like Odyssey. There were just
I didn't play Unity. That's one of the ones that I skipped.
Oh, geez, that's right, Black Flag. But they came out the same year. No, they didn't. They came out a year after.
Black Flag, and then I jumped to
Origins.
I think it was Origins. Yeah, it must have been Origins. Yeah.
So yeah, Unity. I don't know if you remember like the meme of the map, but the meme was just basically there was so many things
Just
on the map that you
littered
could
with
not see the
stuff.
map.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
This one here is a little bit more laid back because what you're doing is now like, you know, if you go to, you know, if you go to the viewpoints, like you're not getting the full map unlocked in that area. Like what it basically does is just it shows you like the region and then vague hints of what's going around you in that area. So like you might see like, you know, like a landmark of what's over here, what's over there. And then it's a natural exploration. So like you'll go in this direction and you'll have like vague hints of what to do. So like in my demo there was, let me pull it up. It says something like question Tokubei's wife Suzu. So like she's a character you have to find in this village, and it's just like here's some hints. So she's in this village, it's Harima, or you could be like, well, I'll go explore there. But as soon as you get there, it's like, well, she's in the western part, so you kind of have to go there and find where she is. And
right,
then
you're not just running or traversing to an exclamation
like there's
point.
no way there is a guided exploration like older game, but that's an accessibility feature now. So to this is more just you're in this world and you have to explore. So you don't have to, you know, like there's no waypoints that are just saying go here, you know, 500 steps from where you are. So you have to go find the actual house of Tokubei, which is like a samurai you're looking for who has gambling debts, and you're trying to find him to basically invade one of the castles because he's one of the guards there and you need him to let you in.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's stuff like that. So it's a natural exploration. Like I feel like it's a lot better. The other big thing is that there's no more eagle. The last 3 games had the eagle, and I honestly did not like it because it just felt like an overpowered gimmick to kind of tag enemies and see what's ahead of you. It's more dialed back. Now you're doing eagle vision again, and you can tag enemies and see their paths, and it's more in line to what the older Assassin's game are in that sense. Because I'm in that camp of I didn't like the eagle. I understand why it was there in Origin specifically because he had had an eagle.
Had it, yeah.
And then the other games, for whatever reason, there was another eagle. I didn't feel like it was a good thing, but you now have your traditional eagle vision. You have the tools to mark enemies. You have all these things to help guide you to where you need to be instead of just, you know, putting the eagle in the air, tagging a bunch of things and going back to your character.
Right.
But it makes a big difference because the landscapes are very rich this time. And I feel like as much as I thought I liked Valhalla, it wasn't as good as I remember it to be. Like at this point it's a 4-year-old game. It's a 5-year-old game, I should say. And it just it is a bloated mess. So I'm glad that, you know, Ubisoft took their time. 5 years later, like there's a lot of good things about Shadows that I'm liking. So another thing is like now you're having the ability to do like a Pathfinder, which is kind of like a guided line. So if you want to, you know, get to your next destination, but you don't want like the icon to point you to where you got to go, you can hold the D-pad and then it basically gives you like a line to follow to get to where you need to do your business, whatever. And like it's a nice option to have because sometimes I just, you know, I'm playing at night. I don't want to think about, you know, well, this person's here, so I have to kind of figure out what they're doing and where they are and find them. This one here just kind of just says turn it on, and you can just follow the line to your next landmark. And it's cool. Like, it's a nice little accessibility feature that you can kind of just turn on and off as you need.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, there's all these little quality of life improvements. You know, like another thing is now, I don't know if there's a quality of life improvement, but it's a cool little feature. So you can still fast travel in this game, but there are points in the map where once you fast travel, you have to actually be aware of your surroundings. So you might fast travel into like an enemy territory, and they might be, you know, there guarding the castle or like a den.
It's not like an automatic safe spot.
It's not a safe spot. So like, it's a nice improvement because it's just like, well, you know, a lot of people, like myself included, I'll just warp to some spot and just go about my business there. But now it's just like, well, you warp there and you could probably get bodied the second you land on the ground.
So how does that work then? Like, why is that a travel point or a fast travel point if it could potentially, is that just because that's just how they build the world around it, and they have like
I think it's just how they built the world.
It's just it's not like you're all of a sudden on a roof because you fast traveled there, and now there's enemies below you. You could be like literally in the middle of something.
Exactly, like
and that doesn't feel like off. It just like
I feel like it ties into the world of being more livable and believable.
Right.
I'm sure, like you leave, like it's just like you go out in your business one day, you're traveling, you're driving somewhere, and like you see someone where they're probably not supposed to be, but then you leave and you come back and they're still there. It's just kind of like I feel like it makes the world a little bit more believable. It's like,
I feel like it's more alive. Yeah.
Alive, yeah. There's a lot of great little changes now. So like there is a hideaway. So if you like the Ezio villa, like building the villa, and like you can actually build your own cafe, there's a hideaway in this game. So there is that kind of thing. So you can like build dojos, you can build these things. You have people come to your hideaway and improve it. And how safe house is called I think it's Kugarega. I butchered it, but it's like little safe houses that you can like find hidden throughout the map.
Okay.
And these maps are fast travel points. You have you can have scouts that are there for you that can replenish your stocks. You can manage your teammates because you now have teammates. You can actually accept missions here. You can do all these new things here. And it feels, because it's so, let's start back from there. So there's an Assassin's Creed game. The last couple games you have not been assassin. So like obviously Assassin's Creed Origins was the origin of the Brotherhood. Assassin's Creed Odyssey was a prequel to that. So it's just like you're playing a character who is facing an ancient order. And then in Valhalla, you're just a friend of the assassin. So the last 3 games, it's just like, well, you've never been an assassin. And then Mirage came along, and you're playing as Basim in a prequel, which Basim is the assassin from Valhalla. Dave, I don't know if you're like too familiar with this, but like he was like the character in that game who represented the assassins.
Yeah, I remember when you guys were talking about it when it came out. One of you guys was it? And
it was last year. No, 2 years ago.
I guess almost 2 years ago at this point. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I think you guys explained it, and I kind of followed along. Okay, that's where that guy comes from, or whatever. Yeah. As far as the fine details, I don't know, but fair enough.
Yeah. So in this game, you're playing as an assassin, which is great, right? So there are things now. So like I said, like have safe houses, assassin safe houses. There's an objective board, which basically it's a great tool to basically just update yourself on what's going on in the world. You can use the objective board to basically go and complete challenges. You can use that to find new targets to assassinate. You can basically, if you need to find clues of where your next target is, you can go to the objective board and you can discover clues about them. And furthermore, you now have access to scouts. So like now I can now have scouts that go out and basically find new story missions, new missions for you to tackle side quests. They can find resources to bring back to your hideout. The older games, the notoriety aspect, where like for example, Ezio, he beats up a guard, like they would remember him, and like the posters would go up.
Yeah.
And this one here, like there is something similar like that. So they would bring down the provincial notoriety. So like in this one here, it's kind of similar where they see you, they will follow you and they will remember you. And if you're in a town or a village, they'll immediately they'll spot you and they'll attack you. So there's little things there, like they will remove that notoriety from you. Like it's pretty cool. And there's just so many things they've added to it. Like this is just the stuff I was noticing. Like I was like I said, I was given a free reign, but like I feel like I barely scratched what was available. Like
I was gonna say, like you can with games like this, especially if it's like a living world, like you're saying, like they're really trying to go for that in a lot of elements. Like you're gonna uncover deeper things the more you play. Like it's just how it's gonna go, right? Like that's the point, is that you're gonna stumble upon things, or you're gonna continue to build your repertoire and get the scouts and all these like objectives and things like that. And like that's great. And if the exploration feels good, then you're just good. Like even just stumbling upon something, if you don't know if there's an objective there, so that's rewarding. Like when big games, if they just have empty space and the reward is either nothing or something not consequential at all, then like what's the point? But sounds like they're leaning towards making this like a rewarding experience, regardless of what, you know, corner of the area you're going to go in. So that's already, you know, there's incentive there to just do it or follow along with the story. Either way, you're probably going to find something that you enjoy at least.
Exactly. So yeah, those are just the mechanics that I was kind of interacting with.
Yeah.
That I haven't even touched like the combat, just exploration in itself. Like I my favorite thing to do was just, you know, I like to call the steed, so like your horse, and just kind of explore. So like you know, you hold down the down button on the D-pad and you pull up your horse and you just jump on automatically, and then you kind of just, you're free to wander. So like if you enjoyed that in Tsushima, it feels similar to that. Like the world is it's stunning. Like there are moments where I was just riding the horse across bridges and like you could see like rivers flowing and the wind blowing just all the greenery and the sun just kind of hitting everything perfectly. And like I think my favorite thing is just how beautiful and realizes this version of Japan is, and specifically after Ghost of Tsushima, because that is like pretty much, I feel like the gold standard of Japan in video games.
Yeah, at this point, I think that's a pretty safe thing to say. Yeah.
So like that's the big thing. Like that was the gold standard. I feel that given Ubisoft's current situation in the games industry and like a lot of the issues they're facing, all this extra time, all this attention to detail was needed. Like they have to make this game as good as it could possibly be. Right. They have to give this world all the respect and attention it deserves.
Right.
And I think that is owed to Sucker Punch for what they did with Tsushima and like what they did to respect the country and the culture and all that. And I know, like I said, this is another thing where it feels like an outlier things to say, given, you know, the whole situation with there were some inconsistencies with, you know, the historic research that some of the people on this game did. And there was like an issue where they delivered like a broken Toro shrine, which is like a disrespectful thing, and like that's just one small piece of like a bad situation. But like I feel like in total and all encompassing, like they've really done a good job to honor and respect this culture and this world. And that's just from like 4 hours of what I spent with it. So I mean, we still have like another month to go, 2 months to go. Sorry, it's 2 months, but it feels like it's coming together really well, and I'm it's putting me at ease for what this game is gonna possibly be, given how bloated Valhalla was and just like how it just never really delivered what I wanted from an Assassin's Creed game.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know what? It sounds like they've. It's good to hear. Like I think we've said it multiple times on the show, and I think a lot of people have. We're definitely not the only ones where it's like, oh, the game's not quite ready. Go ahead, take your time, take the extra few months, take the month, take the weeks, whatever it is. Sounds like, I mean, based on not that you played it a year ago and then played it again, you know, today to sort of compare like the fine details of it or whatever, but it feels like you're saying, well, they took this extra time. Clearly, look at what they're getting to. It looks like it's going in the right direction, and that's exactly what I think that's what we want. That's why we say, hey, it's okay, take your time, do what you got to do, because then that's when you get the right product and the good product, regardless of what company it is. It really, at the end of the day, whether it says Ubisoft or something else, if it's a great game and the team has some care behind it and stuff, then great. Let's see what you got. Let's get our hands on it. Like I'm more excited just hearing us, you know, having us talk about it for the last half hour than I was at any other point. Like to me, it looks interesting, but again, I've kind of fallen off the franchise for the most part. So this sounds like one, at least for me, for someone who's in that position. Well, now I'm definitely more interested. You know, in a month when we're like only a few weeks away and more stuff comes out, and I'll watch some more footage, or they do, you know, developers talk, whatever their plan is over the next couple months. My ears are gonna be perked up a lot more than they were, you know, a couple months ago, or when they said they were delaying it the second time. I was like, oh, okay, well, they're delaying it. It is what it is. But now I'm more interested as to why they delayed it, and what it's going to be at the end of it, just based on what you're saying, honestly.
Right. Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I feel it is a good jumping point for newcomers or returning players. I mean, if you bounce off Valhalla or even Mirage, like Mirage was like a lot more condensed. It was more streamlined, but it was
meant to be that. That was the whole point. It felt like
it was more of the classical Assassin's Creed, and I know that's what I wanted from it. But we're going back to this open world RPG, and it feels like it's in the right developers' hands. Like I think this is Ubisoft Quebec, which worked on I believe they worked on Odyssey, which I did like Odyssey. I think Odyssey was really good, and I forget what else they worked on, but like they're I think they're the right team to lead the series to where it needs to go. To be honest with you, and yeah, that's kind of what it is. I feel like this is a great jumping point, and there's something perfectly actually we can tie into that notion. So this is the first Assassin's Creed game that's going to introduce the Animus Hub, which I believe was presently known as Assassin's Creed Infinity, codenamed Assassin's Creed Infinity, which was leaked a couple years ago as like a hub for the series. So it's like a live action hub.
Yeah.
Earlier in 2024, I think June 2024, I think it was actually during Summer Game Fest. One of the developers confirmed that Infinity was now going to be called the Hub. Is that the Animus Hub? So I actually I was one of the first people to, I guess, understand and learn what the hub is and what its purpose is going to be. So we have our article up on the website. You can obviously check that out, but I'll just go over it quickly just because, I mean, this is basically the future of Assassin's Creed games and like how you're going to interact with them and play them. So basically it is a hub. So like I said, it's just, it's something you load up on your console or your PC, and it's got 4 pillars. You have memories, you have projects, exchange, and the vault. Okay. And it's like the first thing you're going to see when you load up. So memories.
So when you turn this game on, this is the first thing you see.
I believe it's going to be like that.
Yeah. Not that you didn't specifically experience it this way, but that the idea is this is supposed to be almost like a launcher for the
exactly. So if you think of it like Call of Duty. So Call of Duty has kind of done away with individual launches. So now it's just like one app, and then you load the games from within there. So like if you do like multiplayer, there's a multiplayer tab, there's a zombie tab, and then there's a tab to swap between like the single player campaigns of every game. So it's kind of like that. Memories in this one here is memories is the first tab, you click into, and it's where you interact with all of the single player campaigns. So like in my little preview, I saw the time that Origins took place, the time that Odyssey took place. It kind of tells you when in history this game is taking place. Mirage, all of them. So this one here is 1579. It's called Shadow. So like it shows just like a picture of Naoe and Yasuke, and you hit access to start playing the game, and then it boots into the game. And it's just a cool little launcher. And then the second hub is basically projects, which is basically you go into projects and it's regular missions. So like Ubisoft's going to be pushing, it looks like, regularly timed missions where you can unlock different weapons for Yasuke and Naoe. You can unlock new gear. You can unlock data files, which are modern day story files you have to unlock that kind of give you more information about what's going on in the modern day setting, because let's not forget, like there's a modern day story going on with the assassins and the Templars and all that. So
easy to forget sometimes.
It is, right? But they're I think they're going to try and respect. There's something going on.
That's kind of what the hub kind of is feels like it's a link to that, and so or gives you an opportunity to link to it. Yeah.
Exactly. So like it's just a place where you can you can unlock rewards. It looks kind of like the layout kind of looks like a battle pass, but I don't think it is a battle pass. So like there's like different levels you unlock. So like there's like
I can see it. There's like there's numbers sort of at the bottom.
Right.
And there's like I think
and
that's
then you
the
unlock
final
rewards.
reward and So like the mission thing that you mentioned, or the sort of extra things there where you can unlock, like, are you playing within that game, or if potentially if or maybe I'm just thinking too hard about this, like if you own 4 of these games or something.
Right.
And you open up those missions things. Are you playing? Are they sort of like VR missions for Metal Gear? Is that kind of like the idea where they're separate from the game? Or
I don't think so. I think they're basically
okay.
like, here's the mission, you have to go in the game and do it. So you probably have to like.
I see.
It wasn't
I
explained to
see.
me. It was just kind of shown. So like I think it's just like in
Gotcha.
that one here, in the article, basically what I have is like a screenshot. It basically says, you know, you have to do this legacy mission. I guess you have to activate it and then go into the game and then go and complete it, and then
And
you
then
come back and
gotcha.
you
Okay.
get your perk.
Okay. Cool. Gotcha.
But it's just a way to keep people active. Like there is a similar style store in Origins and Valhalla and Odyssey, where you go to this vendor and he basically gives you weekly and daily gear that you can purchase for like these specific currencies. I think they're like stones.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one is the exchange, where you can obviously take whatever items you've or even the currency you've earned through those project hubs, and I feel like it ties into that, so you can kind of just unlock extra gear for your characters. And then the last thing is the vault. Yeah.
No,
there wasn't much information about the exchange, so I didn't really explain much too about it. But the vault is kind of where I was kind of drawn, because that's kind of where everything was shown to be the hub for all the modern day stuff. So like you're unlocking encrypted files that are tied to the modern day story, and it looks like you have to encrypt or decrypt them and kind of understand what's going on. So like you're obviously doing files that are talking about like the assassins, the Templars. You're unlocking diaries of characters, and it seems to be the place where you want to keep checking periodically, because you're unlocking new files pretty often. It looks like there seem to be a lot of them.
That's interesting. It's sort of a way where it ties into what you're doing, and you may or may not know that you're. I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of notification to say, "Hey, you got more information to decrypt this part of the vault or whatever." Like, I'm sure that'll sort of pop up as you go, or at least I assume it would. But it gives you a good reason to sort of look back and say, "Oh, I'm rewarded in a different way, not just stumbling upon something as I traverse a city or an open area or something like that, or defeat enemies." Like, oh, I've done something, whether you know it or not, whether it's a setup mission or not, that you've gathered more information or got more of that like currency, like you mentioned, sort of unlock something new. And I guess it's like a way for them to sort of add more content that isn't specifically like in that game. It's this added feature that it sounds like is going to be tied to other games as well, or going forward. So this is just like the start of it.
Yeah, exactly. So like it feels like it's just something that branches the overarching modern day story there. That's cool. So like I'm looking forward to it. But
it's interesting. I mean, the more games that they add to it, the more robust it's going to feel, right? Like
I feel like the series kind of lost its way with the ending of Assassin's Creed 3, and then they kind of found footing in Origins, and then they kind of lost their footing in Valhalla. So I feel like they need to correct the course and bring it back to focus with this game. So I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. The last thing I kind of want to talk about is combat. I know.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Yeah, because combat, I know it's improved over like Valhalla, Mirage. I mean, I got myself bodied pretty hard several times as Naoe, because she's very nimble. She has no armor. She's obviously not, covered in samurai gear, but she's very nimble. So like she might be able to take less hits than Yasuke, but she can definitely hold her own. Right. Just because she's got access to shuriken, she's got access to smoke bomb, she's got the Kusarigama, which is like that chain sickle with the spinning chain that you see her in the demo, and like that thing is amazing to use in battle. That was probably my favorite surprise of combat, is the fact that she's got that weapon in addition to her kunai and the hidden blade. But yeah, honestly, Dave, like, I know you never played like Valhalla on them, but like it feels like a vast improvement in terms of combat. Like it just feels a lot more meatier, weightier. It's not just a simple button masher where you're just hacking away with R1 and R2 and just trying to whittle down enemy health. In this game here, like you have to look at shielding. You have to look at the armor. You have to break pieces of armor off them to kind of get them to be exposed, vital organs to actually do damage to them. So it's not like as versatile as say as Ghost of Tsushima, but it feels like a vast step up from previous games, and like it surprised me just how good it felt to play this game, because comparison, Yasuke, he does this brutal this brutal move where he basically he'll walk up to somebody and you tap R1 and he'll like stab a guy and like lift him up with the sword, and you just kind of see him hold his body in front of him and he just throws it on the ground. And it's like two sides of the sword, right? Like now he's like this little nimble shinobi, and then you have Yasuke, who just basically just tanks everything. Like he can hold his own against a group of enemies. Like he's the one you want to basically have there when you're dealing with like 4 or 5 enemies, because he can fight them all.
Take a few hits.
He can take a few hits, and they all have they have all both characters have like moves tied to like I think it's R2 and like the face button. So like one, you can see Yasuke in the gameplay trailer that we're posting on the site and on YouTube. The screen like fades to like a Kurosama black and white filter, and like he slashes and dices these enemies, and like they all just kind of fall to the ground.
That's sick.
Yeah, it's like these little things. Like there's these little flourishes that make combat just feel a lot better than what any of the previous games have done.
Right.
I feel like out of all of the Assassin's Creed games, this is probably going to be the most fun to play, because it's not only brutal raw action as a samurai, but you have the most nimble assassin yet. So Naoe, for example, like I said, you can't obviously fight enemies, so you have to be smart about how she interacts with the world and the characters. For example, like you have to invade a castle. I tried to do it how I normally would, is just kind of just show up, be seen, and start fighting everybody. That doesn't work. Like you have to be either really good with reflexes, or you have to be well equipped with like smoke bombs and like all these tools. And what I ended up found working is now it has all these little new tricks. So like in previous games, you can never go fully prone. Now we can go fully prone. So she can go lay on her stomach. She can crawl around. She can go underwater and have like a little, like a bamboo shoot to kind of give her extra time to breathe underwater. So she can stealth crawl. She can get around. She can throw poison darts. She blends into the shadows. She can use her grappling hook to hit up the rafters and hang on the rafters so an enemy can fall. The enemy will basically, walk underneath her. You can hit R1 to assassinate them from the rafters. It's all these new little tricks that you feel like a true shinobi assassin in this game, where it's not just like R1, 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 you do a combo. It's just like, well, now you have to plan how you're going to get from the opening of the castle to the top floor. And there's even a section where I was playing where it was the final mission of the game, and I think you can do it as both characters, but in my situation, I just did it as Naoe, and basically what she did is basically you have to fight your way to the top of this castle, and I failed every time until I started using poison darts, or she has access to what is it, like sound like these little sound things like that,
like noisemakers and stuff.
Like noisemakers and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's a force to be reckoned with. Like she has all these like little trinkets that just make it so much fun to fight enemies. Like you can cut through those paper doors. You can like stab enemies through them. Like you can stealthily walk up to them and just slice them down without being seen. You can put her in a situation where she extinguishes light so they can't see her. So like she can just walk around in the dark to just assassinate from the shadows. She can use her chain sickle to like grab enemies and pull them towards her, and she can stab them. She's got all these tools that are just insane to use, and like it opens up a lot of versatility for someone who enjoys to plan how they want to get through a mission. Like it's just so insane of how much they've put into this. And yeah, overall, like I'm blown away with just what I've played, and that's only in 4 hours, and
right,
that's just a fraction of what's coming, right? So like, yeah, I mean, I'm just shocked how different this game feels compared to previous games, right? And I feel like that was what that extra time was for.
right. And what's cool about this too, like if even if we're like just discussing combat at this moment, like the difference between the two and their approach and the style of fighting that they have, or approaches to battles that they have and stuff, are vastly different, which is interesting in itself. But that's also a rewarding experience, because and it also just adds more to the game, because previously largely you're approaching things mostly the same. You get into a pattern, let's say, or at least in my experience, you get into a pattern, and yeah, the level design's different, there's different enemies, there's different ways that you're going in and out of buildings or areas. Fair enough. But with this, you have to approach it very differently, because both characters are different from the start. That in itself adds more depth to it and more excitement, I think. Like that's one of the reasons why I'm excited about this, is because no matter what you do, as you switch between both characters and you play as both of them, you have to play the game differently, but it's still the same game. You're not playing a sequel, you're not playing DLC. It's the same game, and you have two vastly different approaches to pretty much every scenario, and that's awesome to me. I was interested already when they said that there was two characters, but then obviously, again, hearing about the details and stuff makes me even more interested into what the possibilities could be.
And that's the thing, right? So, the cool thing is like it's just like you can, I'm not like obviously like the one to confirm this, but from what I understand, is like you can pick and choose who you want to play as in specific missions. So like the last mission I played, it's like you can play as, say Naoe up to this point, and then it gives you the option, do you want to play as Yasuke or Naoe going forward for this next part of this mission, and it lets you choose. Right. And the outcome's different for everyone. So like at Summer Game Fest, they showed a demo of how both characters play the same mission, and Yasuke was obviously, like we said, he can't climb, he can't jump too far. He just basically has to climb all the way to the top. Whereas as Naoe, I basically was able to climb up the roof, grapple over one of the walls, and just use the grappling hook to get to the top and just break through a window. Like there's the versatility right there. Like there's little things like that, and it's cool because otherwise, when you're just in the open world, you just have to go to the main menu, in like the main inventory menu, and basically you hold X to swap between your characters, and then you can just continue about until you want to swap back with them, or when the mission calls for them to swap.
And are you swapping right in that spot, or are you zooming over to that character who's another part of the map or something?
I think that would have been cooler, because it's just like they're going about their day. But
because like, what am I thinking of? That's GTA, I guess, right? GTA 5. Yeah.
But no, this one is just like you swap and they show up where you were.
Yeah,
and
which is totally fine too. I was just wondering if it was that.
Yeah, like it does the job. Like I do like it. It's pretty seamless. I mean, I think within a couple seconds I was back and forth between characters. I mean, it's free, right? And it's just like you just swap, you're back there. You go, oh well, you don't want to play this character, you just go back to them right away.
Right.
Other than that, like I didn't really experience much of the skill trees. I mean, I wasn't really invested in that. That's my fault. I probably should have done a little bit more research on them, but like there is a lot of options to unlock. There's quite a bit there. There's a lot to anticipate in March, and like it feels like this is probably going to be a good game for Ubisoft, and I feel like the series in general. I think this has to be the win for Ubisoft, because if it doesn't,
right,
it's gonna be a make or break for them.
It's gonna be devastating if this is like something that just doesn't hit. And hopefully, you know what? Like hopefully it's. I mean, you sound pretty confident about it, which obviously you didn't play the whole game or anything, but sounds like it could be that. Hopefully, if for whatever reason that first week or two it doesn't quite get the hype or something that they're hoping for. Hopefully it's one of those games that has the legs and starts getting word of mouth type of thing, because it feels like it also could be one of those because of all the different elements that it has that you've been explaining, where it doesn't just start and stop with just, oh, you're an assassin, that's it. No, it's bigger than that, or it's got more going on than that.
Yeah, and both characters are pretty likable so far. I mean, just from like my time with them, I do like them both. The performances are pretty good. It feels very authentic. A lot of the Japanese actors I feel were familiar, and like I feel like I can pinpoint them if I look up once like the official like cast is out. Like I want to look them up because the voices were really good. A lot of the Japanese characters were really, really solid and strong performances.
Is it English and then subtitles or something, or is it like performed in Japanese, or is there a choice? Or
I don't know if there's a choice. I'm sure there will be, but it was just English. It was just English. It was just like playing any other sound game. Yeah, which is fine, right? Like I
totally fine. I was just curious. Yeah,
I know some people are sticklers for authenticity, and I don't really care at that point. Like the performances are there. I feel like they're pretty strong. What I saw was enough to satisfy what I was worried about, and yeah, it's not too over the top. It feels like it's trying to take itself seriously in the right way.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of the Assassin's Creed games, or at least some elements of them, whether I've played them all or not is another thing, but it's almost like they try too hard. It's too self-serious. And not that it should be, a comedy game or anything like that, but there is a sort of balance there, and this feels like it's, oh no, go have fun, but also, hey, there's something bigger and deeper going on here. So that's sort of what they need, right? So
I encourage anybody to, like, if you're on the fence, I mean, check out my gameplay, look up other outlets, gameplay previews, do your own due diligence. But like, if you're asking me, or I know Steve is actually doing his own demo this week too. If you ask Steve, I'm sure he'll probably feel the same. Like I feel like I'm on board with it. I'm excited. I've always loved the series. I particularly obviously love the Ezio games because it really set the stage for what the series could be. I'm all for it. I'm really positive after my time with Assassin's Creed Shadows.
That's awesome. That's what we want to hear, and that's what Ubisoft wants to hear too. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly.
That's pretty much it. All right. Well, you know what? It is as of right now, the release date is March 20th, if I'm not incorrect. March 20th. So we have, as of this recording, as we're sitting here, like 2 months almost to the day that it's coming out. So we have some time. We'll probably get a little bit more info, but yeah, make sure that you check out Bobby's gameplay, his 2 articles on it as well, which even expands even further from what we've been talking about over the last hour. And put your ears and eyes to the screens of Assassin's Creed Shadows. More to come from Console Creatures on the game, and lots of other stuff like Bobby mentioned towards the beginning. Bobby, what can people look forward to that we can tell them about, and where can everyone find it?
I can't really talk about what we're going to be doing, but stay tuned for the next couple
I wanted
of weeks.
to see if I could burst the bubble. I
know. I know that I'm brimming to talk about it. Like I'm
just really kidding.
Excited because we're setting the date, hopefully tomorrow, and then we're going to announce it closer too. But there's a couple of big things happening, and there are some of the bigger launches in February. So we're going to be having some coverage and interviews with people working on some of the biggest games in February. So stick around and check those out.
Yep.
But I mean, that's all fine and dandy. But like, Dave, I know this is the Assassin's Creed preview event, but like, if you want to talk about any game you're playing, I mean,
I can mention
one of the rare episodes where you're on, right? So
I know that's true. I was like, oh well, but okay, I could talk about a couple of things. There's, I guess, one of the ones that I'm currently playing, like right now. It just released. And they were nice enough to send us over a code that you passed on, Bobby, just I think yesterday, as of us sitting here. It's called Takara Cards.
Right.
So it is a deck building sci-fi turn-based game. that is very broad or whatever. But if you've heard me on this show, I think it was I guess it was in the 2023. And if you've seen a review or if you've even heard of the game, but Cobalt Core is the first thing that kind of comes to mind that I can compare it to, mainly because it has all those elements in it. It's turn-based, there's cards, it's space, it's got a personality, it's got a really cool design. It really doesn't, when you really look at it, eventually it doesn't quite play the same, but I couldn't help so far, at least in my first couple of hours of the game. It's not going to be a complete review that I'm talking here, but it's just my early thoughts on it. It feels like they're sort of in the same genre, I guess you could call it, or a mix of genres. Essentially, the game is your spaceship. Then there is a grid of 9 squares, or I guess 9 rectangles that are shaped of cards. And there are enemy ships within those 9. There's your ship. There's asteroids. There's scrap that you can pick up, which is kind of like your inventory or money and things like that you can trade for. And you have to eliminate as many enemy ships before you lose all your health and blow up and can't move on to the next area, essentially. All of the cards that you have, just like any other deck building type game like this, will have movement, will have attacks, will have shielding. You can swap squares with the other ships and things on the map, or just on the board, you could call it. And you just have to really just use and build your deck and try to find the best way to get through that particular battle, and then you move on to the next one. And then in between moving on to the next one, you have a chance to buy more cards, to research for new ones that might pop up in further stores. There's a whole deeper story going on that I don't quite have a grasp on just yet.
Right.
On the surface, the game seems very simple, I would say. That's like, oh, you got cards, you got a ship, defeat enemies, and that's it. But very quickly, after doing the tutorial and playing the first couple of failed runs, because it's sort of a roguelike as well, I realized, wow, this game is way deeper than I thought it was. There's so much more going on. There's so much more interaction with other characters that you run into. There's a really cool voiceover that kind of does different. It's almost like someone's reading you a story. You run into a new character. It's the same person that reads all of the dialogue, but they're doing voices sometimes, or they have different intonations and things like that. It's a really sort of fun way that they've decided to do that. All those things just layer on all the different elements that you need to sort of keep in mind while you're playing the game. I'm a little bit overwhelmed at the moment, but I've also only done a couple of runs, failed runs, which is totally fine because it's early on in a roguelike. So I need to sort of get a bigger grasp or tighter grasp on exactly how I'm supposed to get past the sort of first boss, because it just whooped my ass 3 times in a row. Felt like I had no chance whatsoever. But again, you got to unlock new stuff to be able to have a stronger sort of arsenal and stuff to sort of get to that. So that's totally fine. I'm liking it so far. The presentation's awesome. The sound is great. The music is great. I can tell that there's going to be a lot of cards that I'm going to be able to unlock with different characters. Just like with a lot of games like this, it's not like you just have one ship and you just get cards. You have a faction, you have a character, you have a ship. They all have different characteristics you have to work within that have weaknesses and strengths, and you sort of go from there. So all that stuff is there. I just need to get a little bit deeper into it, but I could see where it's going to go. I think it's going to be something that I'm going to enjoy. I'm just currently sitting here going oh, I got to wrap my head around this. It's got a lot more going for it than I thought it did.
Yeah, the trail looks pretty cool. I mean, it's definitely not my type of game. Card deck builders are just I don't know what it is. I just don't mesh with them. But it looks really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm happy you're enjoying it, because it does seem pretty complicated. But I mean, I'm sure you'll grasp it, and it seems like it's got some solid ground to just let you understand everything and work through what its concepts are and how to process them and all that.
Yeah, and that's what it is, and I like that. That's part of the rewarding aspect of games like this, is you figure out how to manage all these different mechanics and elements that are going on. I'm happy to do that. It's just going to take some time for me to get that. You can't just do that in a roguelike of any nature, card battle building or not. Even if it's Hades or something like that, you want to, Dead Cells, those big titles, you still have to grasp how to handle each boss fight or each room or each weapon, and you're going to get more as you go along, and then you just get a handle on it. So I'm in that stage right now. Still very early on. And then the last thing I want to mention too is a demo that I played last week, the week before, that you also tipped me towards, Bobby, is called Drop Duchy.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
want to
That looks like so much fun.
I want to mention it, not necessarily because I played the full game or whatever, but just I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. So this is a game that also mixes a bunch of different elements. It's basically Tetris meets turn-based battling and board games, and it's card deck building. It's got a whole bunch of elements, but essentially you have different cards that are either archers or it could be an empty field, it could be a forest, it could be resource gathering buildings, but all of those are shaped like Tetris pieces. And as you play on a very familiar vertical board that looks like a Tetris board, and you have to sort of combine all your pieces and drop them where they need to in order to defeat enemies, or sometimes there's areas where you just gather resources that'll help you sort of build towards hopefully defeating the next enemy that you face. The enemy is also doing similar things. They have, like, in your card set, so you have a bunch of cards. Let's say you have 20 or 25 cards. When you face an enemy, you have 5 to 10 enemy cards that you also shuffle through. They have to be dropped onto the board, but you have to try and place them in a way that doesn't give them the advantage. Instead, it gives you an advantage as well, or minimizes their benefit. But their cards are very similar to yours. So if you benefit from having a bunch of forests around your archery area, or around the area that gathers you resources, you have to find a way to make sure that the enemy's same building is somewhere else on that Tetris board.
Right.
And it really creates this sort of like, oh, I just did a perfect combo. Oh shit, now the enemy's also going to get a benefit from what I just did because I have nowhere else to put them. And then now you have to sort of course correct, but all within a Tetris, board. I keep calling it board, but screen, whatever. And the only differences here too, or one of the differences, is that when you create a full row anywhere on the board, unlike Tetris, it doesn't disappear. It gives you like a multiplier of resources or multiplier of your army or towards the enemy and stuff. So you don't just keep going and going and going until there's nothing left on the board. It will always stack towards the top. And once you reach the top, then all the resources and all the army, the characters that are part of your army will now gather together and just basically auto battle against the enemy. And whoever has the more advantageous sort of outcome will win. And then you get sort of a reward for that.
Right.
Little bit hard to explain sort of thing, but basically it's like do the best you can with what you're given in your cards and in your blocks and move on to the next one. And the demo took me about a couple hours to get through. It is sort of like a roguelike thing, similar to what I was just talking about before with Takara Cards, where you just, if you fail, you just start again, and maybe you've unlocked new cards to sort of help with your repertoire and your arsenal and stuff like that. It took me a few tries. I beat the boss, and then I did it again because it was really freaking addicting.
It seems like it. I mean, just the demo itself, like I feel like it's something I definitely want to play.
Yeah, it is. It is one that I think I was like, oh, and the other thing I wrote too in my preview too is that I suck at Tetris. I wish I was good, but I'm not. Like I can make it a few levels that I'm like, man, I suck at this. This, if you don't quite get the right combination, or you screwed up or something like that, it still kind of feels rewarding. You will be sort of punished for that because you're facing off against enemies most of the time. But it's still, there's those added elements of, resource gathering and building your army and all that stuff that just feels like, okay, I'm getting somewhere with this. And the point of it isn't to clear the screen. Like I said, the point of it is to just build as much as you can before you get to the top. And all those little elements add up to something that I think I'm just going to want to one more run. Like it's not overly complex, at least not in the demo anyways. And there's just enough there of reward so far, even though it's only one complete run to one boss, that feels like, oh, I could see what they're doing here. I think this is going to hook me. So Drop Duchy is what that's called. Right. And then the other game I played was Takara Cards. Both similar ideas, but definitely different presentation and sort of elements of what the actual like screen and board is. But deck building, both of them, and both having a great time with so far. So those are the two that have taken up my time over the last little bit, and I'm sure next time I'm on, I'll have more to talk about. So those are the two at the moment.
There's going to be lots of games in the next couple of months, so like I'm looking forward to it.
No kidding, yeah. So that'll take us to the end of the episode for this week. We've got a lot on, like I said, Assassin's Creed Shadows to come, more games for us to talk about as well. Big stuff coming for the show and for the website, and a crazy February, that's for sure. Like you said at the beginning of the show, no more slow time, no more breaks,
It
Bobby.
doesn't feel like we're gonna have breaks till at least April,
maybe. But even then, we're gonna start, maybe we're gonna get more Switch news. Maybe we're gonna get more smaller games that pop up.
Well,
like
April,
these two,
for sure.
these two games. Well, April we're definitely gonna get Switch news. Yeah. These two games alone are ones that were not on my radar. I'm playing and I'm really enjoying. It's gonna happen in April and May. I know it is. That's just how it works, right? That's just that's the nature of indie games. That's the nature of the industry. That's just how it goes, and that's exciting. But so yeah, lots of stuff to come, lots of stuff to talk about. Consolecreatures.com and social media as well. Find us across the board there. I'm
specifically Blue Sky.
Blue Sky is
Blue Sky now.
Yeah, Blue Sky is the way to go. I'm at Dave Petro there as well, and Bobby, you're B Pashalides as usual. There we go. All right, everybody.
You can find us.
Yep, you'll find us. And of course, like I said, consolecreatures.com. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We will catch you next time. Ciao. Goodbye.
Bye.